My name is Jess Urban, and I am a birth mother to my 12-year-old daughter, Zoe. I became pregnant when I was 17 years old. I had met Zoe's birth father in the drive-thru of McDonald's that I was working at. And he came through drive-thru, ordered, and came back in to get a glass of water, which really meant talking to me. And we exchanged numbers. We chatted on the phone for a couple of months, and we decided that I would go visit him on July 4th of 2003. He was playing softball, so I watched him play softball, and we were booze cruising, and one thing led to another. We went to a friend's cabin, and we ended up sleeping together. I was grounded for the rest of the summer because of that. My dad was very stern with me. He didn't know where I was. So I was grounded, but I still snuck out, so it didn't really matter if I was or not. But I was due to get my period, and I was late. And I took 2 home pregnancy tests, and they both came out positive. I didn't think anything of it. Nothing really sunk in. And so I lied to my dad and said that a friend of mine needed to go to Planned Parenthood and to take a pregnancy test when it was actually for me. He didn't know that at the time, but he would soon find out. So I went to Planned Parenthood and told the nurse that I had 2 home pregnancy tests and I just needed to confirm that I am not pregnant. I was convinced that I was not pregnant. So we took the test, and she gets out this calendar wheel and says that your due date is March 26, 2004. And I remember when she told me, the only thing that I heard was due date. I didn't really hear anything else except for my world shattering. I felt like my feet were completely taken out from under me, and I didn't have anybody there to catch me. So I called my mom and told her the news. Only 3 words she kept repeating was, "Oh my God," over and over again. I had thought about throwing myself down a flight of stairs because the old wives' tale, well, you might have a miscarriage. Selfishly at that time, that's what I was hoping for. I went to my friend's house that came with me, she was the one supposed to have the pregnancy test, according to my dad's knowledge. So we went to her house, and I called my dad over the phone and told him the news. And before I got pregnant, my dad and my relationship was very strained. I would lie about who I was with, where I was, what I was going to be doing. It was a very, very difficult relationship. And this was kind of the icing on the cake. He had always told me if I ever got pregnant, he'd kick me out. So this was quite a moment to have to tell him this. So over the phone, I told him, I said, "Dad, I'm pregnant." And it was completely silent. My heart's beating out of my chest. I'm sick to my stomach. And he said, "What?" And I don't know if it meant because he didn't hear me or because he was in disbelief, but I had to repeat myself, and I said, "I'm pregnant." And all he said was, "All my hopes and dreams are ruined for you, and you better not come home tonight." And after I hung up the phone, I remember feeling so rejected and lost and overall sad. I was sad for myself, for my mom, for my dad, and for this baby. I don't know if I was looking for some type of forgiveness that I wasn't worthy of, but this was a turning point for me. This was the time when I knew I needed to be completely honest with myself and to be honest with my dad and my family in general. A couple weeks later, my dad told me that we need to get in touch with my pastor and figure out what to do. So we did. We met with my pastor in my dad's living room. I sat on his love seat, curled up in a blanket, scared out of my mind. What's my pastor gonna think? I felt like I was a hypocrite because I went to church every Sunday, and here I was pregnant at 17. And thankfully my pastor, he never judged me once. He told me what's done is done, and here's what we can do. Abortion never crossed my mind. As I said, I've had God in my life, my entire life, and so it never crossed my mind. So he referred me to the Options Pregnancy Center in Fairmont, Minnesota. And this is where I learned about parenting, and when I learned about adoption, and where I learned about abortion. They told me what my 3 options were. My dad had originally mentioned adoption to me, so I went to the pregnancy center with that in my mind, but I didn't know exactly what it entailed. So this is where I learned a lot about the 2 options that seemed to fit, whether it was adoption or parenting. So I was there probably once a month, maybe every couple of weeks, and we would go through workbooks. We would show the pros and cons of adoption and parenting. And the more I was learning about adoption, the more I liked it, and it seemed like a really good fit. So Zoe's dad, during this whole time, he never really agreed with me with adoption. He was 23 and I was 17. So he was at a completely different point in his life than I was. I was ready to graduate high school. I was ready for college, and he was done with college. So he wanted to parent. And he had it in his heart, that's what he wanted to do, but I had in my heart adoption. So it's a really, really tough place to be. So throughout my pregnancy, I would try to convince him that adoption was the right answer for all parties involved. My parents split when I was 5. I know what it's like to grow up in a single parent home, and I didn't want that for my daughter. I didn't want her to go back and forth between me and her birth dad. Every other weekend I'd be at mom's. Every other weekend I'd have a different set of friends. So that was really tough to adjust to that. And quite honestly, I knew I wouldn't be able to provide for this child the best that I should have been able to. So about 7 months into the pregnancy, I told my social worker, let's go ahead, let's do this. And so she showed me profiles of couples. And I went through probably, I don't remember, at least half a dozen, I'm sure. And then I interviewed this one couple with my family, with my mom and my dad. And I didn't know what questions to ask. I'd never done this before. My parents had never done this before. So this was all brand new to us. They had already had an adopted child, so they kind of had an idea of what to expect and what to tell us, thankfully. So after interviewing them, I thought, this is great. This is the family that is going to take care of my child. And all was set and all was good to go. I had told the family that I wanted to name her Emma Grace. And they told me that they already had an Emma in the family and that they wanted to change her name to Celine Grace. And I was a little disappointed. I thought of Celine Dion was the first person that popped in my head. But I thought, okay, this is going to be their child. So that's fine. And I was happy that they kept Grace. That is my paternal great-grandmother's name. So that was wonderful that they kept that. So, again, Zoe's birth dad, he didn't really give me a straight answer. Everything was very much up in the air with him. And so I decided to proceed with the adoption with or without him. And so Zoe was born, at that point it was Celine. She was born March 22nd, 2004. And my mom cut the umbilical cord. And it was the most marvelous moment ever. The baby's here, and that's all you can think about. You're on cloud 9. I couldn't think about the fact that she wouldn't be coming home with me. I just wasn't, emotionally I had to build that wall. I just needed that day. Give me that day to be with my daughter. And I had a lot of visitors in the hospital. I think a lot of my friends in high school, they wanted to see a baby and not necessarily me. Not too many people knew that I was deciding to place her for adoption, just a select few, 3 or 4 friends. So that second day, my social worker came in and she told me, you need to pick a time and stick with that time. So I picked 9 p.m. on March 23rd. And I'm looking at that clock for the 4 hours leading up to 9 o'clock. And I keep getting these visitors, and I'm starting to resent people for visiting me because I just wanted this time alone with my girl. And 8 o'clock rolls around, and I just had my mom in my room with me. I said, please, no more visitors. And she's reading this list to me. She's reading a list that I made when I was about 6 months pregnant. Parenting versus Adoption. And she read it to me probably a dozen times, because I could change my mind if I wanted to. I could bring her home with me if I wanted to. But who was I to take this gift away from this couple that I had chosen? They had wanted this child, and I just couldn't take that away from them. And I remember sitting in a rocking chair on a donut pillow. That was my best friend, was a donut pillow after labor. And she's sitting there snug in her little blanket and just quiet as could be. And I don't remember if she's looking at me, if her eyes are shut, I'm not really sure, but I remember just telling her that I'm sorry, and that I'm sorry that I can't give you the life that you need and the life that you deserve. I will always be your birth mom, but I cannot be your mommy right now. And I'm sorry that I can't see your first steps, and I can't see you roll over for the first time. That's someone else's gift. And I hope that I can meet you again someday, and I love you so much. And it's because I love you, and that's why I have to let you go. And leaving the hospital without your child is one of the darkest moments you'll ever experience. Whether if your child passes away, or whether you're just, whatever reason, you can't bring them home. It's a very, very dark and empty feeling to have. And my mom basically had to carry me out of there. I was completely distraught. I stayed overnight at a friend's house because I couldn't face going home without a child. After the hospital, my daughter went to foster care. I had 10 working days to change my mind if I wanted to, so that's why she went to foster care. I visited her in foster care 2 or 3 times a week, just to slowly say goodbye. And her birth father had 30 days to register with the state to state that he is the father. And I did not tell him when she was born. That is one regret that I do have. I think part of me thought if he didn't know that she was born, then I could proceed with the adoption. But it's a very small town, so he found out within 24 hours, and this was before Facebook and before social media, and he still found out very quickly that she was born. So he registered with the state on day 29. If he would have waited 2 more days, he would have revoked his rights. So she was still placed in foster care during this time. And then I was working one night at McDonald's, and I was served court papers. It completely blindsided me. I did not see it coming. The gentleman who served me papers was wearing normal street clothes, and so you have no idea that it's coming. And her birth dad was taking me to court for custody of her. So I had a choice to make. I could either let him take her, or I could take her. And I chose the latter because I'm her mom, and because it looks better for the courts for a baby to be with mom. And so I took her into my home. I picked her up from foster care. I went to garage sales and bought a car seat, which I think is illegal now. But I bought a car seat, I bought some clothes, just random things to get through this time, and brought her home. And I didn't know what I was doing. This is a child that I thought I would never see outside of pictures until she was 18. Outside of the hospital, I had never fed a baby. I had never diapered a baby. I didn't know what to do. So I remember going home, staring at her, and in complete awe that she was in my home. And what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do when babies cry. And I was 17 at this time, I think 18 by this point. But my parents, somehow my brother and I survived our parents' care. So I really relied on them to help me. So during the 7 weeks that I took care of her, she went to get her 2-month shots, and we also went to an audiologist. She had not passed her hearing test when she was born. They told me not to worry about it, the nurses did, because she was 5 pounds, 15 ounces. So she was pretty tiny. They said just come back for a follow-up. And she had testing done, and she had severe hearing loss in one ear and then moderate to severe hearing loss in the other ear. This is a lot for a new parent to take in, let alone an 18-year-old who wasn't expecting to parent for a while. And for some reason, I had in my mind she had a milk allergy. I don't know if this was just a defense mechanism or what it was, but it switched formula, and I hoped for the best. So we got those results back, and the day of her shots and those results, my dad and I invited her birth father over to our house. And we basically just pleaded with him. And we said, we love her so much, but we need an answer. We need to know where her forever home is going to be. If it's going to be with us, if you are with us with the plan, please just let us know. So it's a really difficult place to be. I've been bonding with her, and I've been learning her ways, and now I wasn't so sure if I wanted to proceed with the plan. But again, I also couldn't take this gift away. And so I kind of had to really look deep and really think about what is best for her. And I knew with her being partially deaf that Southern Minnesota does not have the tools and the resources to help her, unfortunately. And I didn't know sign language. And of course I would learn it in a heartbeat for her, but I knew I wouldn't be able to help her succeed even now, or especially now. So her birth dad did sign off his parental rights, and I signed off mine as well for the second time. Went to the lawyer's office completely numb. Didn't really want to think about it too hard. We went to the pregnancy center and we did the exchange, and she went to the family that I had chosen for her. I told them about her eating habits, her napping habits, that she was sleeping through the night, and just kind of the basics, I guess, of her. Once she was with the family, I threw myself into work. It worked a lot. That was my coping mechanism. I went home to my dad's after we made the exchange, and it was completely silent. There were no baby noises. That was really difficult to handle. So I tried not to be home very much. So I worked. I was going into my first year of college, so I was getting prepared for that, and I was starting to move on. And about 2 months into college, my social worker called me and said, we need to meet. And I'm petrified. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, something happened to the family. What's going on? She told me that the family had decided not to proceed with the adoption because of her hearing loss. They felt they didn't have the tools to help her, and so she went back to foster care. So I had another decision to make for the third time. I can either take her home for good, or I could continue on the plan. And I was totally distraught. I felt like I was moving on with my life, and this was kind of holding everything back. And I needed a couple days to let it all sink in. And I told my social worker, she needs a home, and I can't give that to her. So what do you got? So she showed me profiles, more profiles specifically of deaf couples. And I had a couple of them picked out. It was very slim. There were maybe 5 tops. And there was this one couple who had 3 biological sons who could hear, and they were looking for a daughter, and specifically a deaf one. So I read their profile. The mom, she had lost her hearing when she was 6 to spinal meningitis. And the dad had been born deaf, and deafness was in his family for 125 years. So being deaf was really part of his legacy. And so this is really wanted to have a deaf child, specifically a daughter, since they had 3 boys. So I met them. They felt more right than the first couple, and I took a huge leap of faith. In a couple days, maybe a week later, I told my social worker, these are the ones, and this is it. This is her forever home, and this is where she's going to stay forever, and let's just leave it. And she's been there ever since, and we have a very open adoption. I've seen her probably 6 or 7 times. She was in my wedding as a junior bridesmaid, and she helped me speak at my local pregnancy center's banquet April of 2015, and she got to meet my second daughter, Adeline. And her name is Adeline Zoe. And in the beginning, Zoe's name was Celine. It was going to be Celine Grace. And Brandy, she had asked me if she could change her name to Destiny. I wasn't in huge favor of that, and I said, I don't know about that. I said we should maybe keep Celine as part of her name because it's who she is and it's part of her story. And she agreed with me, and she said, well, what about Zoe? I said, sure. And so we call her, her full name is Celine Zoe Grace, and we call her Zoe for short. And Zoe means life. So it's very important that I'm very happy that we call her Zoe. So Zoe was in my wedding as a junior bridesmaid, saw her again at the banquet, and my daughter Adeline and I just saw her for her 12th birthday at the end of March of this year. They currently live in Texas, and so it was pretty fun to be able to go on a plane ride with a 2-year-old. It was challenging, but it was a lot of fun. And when Zoe met us by the luggage to pick us up, she went right to Adeline, and usually toddlers are a little nervous around people that they don't know, and Adeline went right to her. It was no problem, and I think that's the sisterhood bond that they have with each other. And Adeline is always asking about Zoe and wondering when we're going to go see her again. And I tell her, well, once we win the lottery, then we'll be able to see her as much as you want. So it's a beautiful thing, and I'm so happy that it's open. That wasn't what I had chosen at first. At first, it was going to be semi-open, but after taking care of her, I needed more than that. I needed to see how she was doing more frequently. And her adoptive mom, Brandy, has been wonderful. She has left it all in my court. She says, whenever you want to see her, you just let me know. And we've been open from the very beginning, and it's been a wonderful thing. If you are a birth mom and you are watching this, first of all, I want to tell you how brave you are and what a courageous decision you have made. You've made a better life for your child. And as a parent, that is one of the most important things that you can do. It is the most selfless and unselfish gift that you can give to somebody, especially when someone is not able to have children. This could be somebody's dream that you're fulfilling. What I've learned through my story and through my life is humility can go a long way. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help. We're all in this together, and we're human. And if you genuinely just ask for help, somebody will help you, whether it's God or a friend or family, somebody will help you. And through this life, I've learned how resilient you can really be. When you're faced with a crisis, sometimes your vision can be really blurred. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's so worth it. It is so worth it in the end. And all the heartache, all the tears, it's going to come to one monumental head. And it's going to be a beautiful moment. And I hope that my story can give you hope that you may be on a different path from these adoptive parents, or a different path from your son or daughter's birth mom or birth dad. But somehow, through the grace of God, you will find the answer. Continue praying, continue being humble, and just know that in the end, everything does work out.